It is Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. We will be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics, and excited to do so here on this Thursday as we get ready for some high school football tonight, tomorrow night, some college football tonight. I'm sure there's some tomorrow night. It's a big football weekend. It's a typical late September weekend. David, what's up?
How we doing, Mo? Beautiful Wednesday here in Nashville.
Except it's
Last couple of
Thursday.
weeks, that is Thursday. I'm sorry, right? My days are backwards. Ooh, not a good start to the day for me. I was going to say that Calvin and I, as we routinely did on Wednesdays, we normally start off with like a meteorology report of how my grass looks. The rain has come though the last couple of days, so the grass is greener. It is not brown. But so we're off to a good start there. My truck though is not off to a good start. It is in the shop. Recall
Oh.
on the transmission and the engine. So I'm driving a rental, and
Other than
they gave
that,
me a mom.
everything's fine.
They gave me a mom car, and so they're cramping my style, Mo. Cramping the style. But other than that, it's a good Thursday, a good start to the day. Ready for the weekend.
A mom car. Have you got a minivan, Dave?
A Ford Edge. I don't need all the seats in the back, you know. I don't need that. It's just me. Just me. No kiddos that I know of.
We're going to leave that alone. Anyway, big show here on this Thursday afternoon. In the second hour, we will be joined by Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio. That's at @AnnK_Mama on ice. So for your moms out there, we'll be talking a little hockey. The Predators have got some stuff going on. They've got training camp going on. They have had some preseason games. They've got a big showcase tonight, actually, up in Clarksville. We'll talk a little bit more to Ann about that and what they've got happening between now and their October 9th regular season opener. In the next segment, we'll be joined on Coach's Corner by Whites Creek football coach William Darnell. The Cobras getting ready for Region 5 3A action this weekend, and they go into region play undefeated. The Cobras are snapping at folks at 5-0 right now. Excited to talk to Coach Darnell about the program up at Whites Creek here in the next segment. We'll also be giving out our Team of the Week and Athlete of the Week awards during our Coach's Corner segment here at 2:20-ish. We'll also be talking a little baseball. Braves were on a roll. Not that it mattered. They are not on a roll right now. Not that it matters. But we'll talk a little baseball. We will talk a little MLB postseason prospects as well later in the show. We will talk some NFL. Thursday night football coming up tonight. Get into a little college football as well. And it is Throwback Thursday. We will throw it back to a conversation that we had earlier this week with Steve LAYMAN of News Channel 5 as we kind of dissected the last weekend over at Nissan Stadium. This conversation doesn't take into account what has happened since Monday with Brian Callahan handing off play calling duties and Jarvis Brownlee getting sent to the Jets. But it's things are wild out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, apparently. But we will get back with Steve again at the top of the second hour in our Throwback Thursday segment. So a lot to get to here over the next little bit.
There is a lot to get to, Mo, and I saw your grief on social media with MLB's account where they were previewing Chris They'll start against the Nationals, I believe, on Monday. They put pennant chase baseball in there. And I'm like, we have two teams that are already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and you put pennant chase baseball right in the middle of that. Interesting.
Question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hindsight's not 2020 for that.
The bottom two teams in the NL East were hooking horns. That's not, they're not pennant chasing. They are trying to stay out of the cellar, basically. And the Braves right now are 10 games clear of the Nationals. So, I mean, we're just playing out the string at this point. Just call it what it is, or just switch out of that game. Maybe you wanted to show sale. I don't know. I get that. But, yeah, just let us finish this up and let us get into 2026. Please, let's do that. So, but that's what it looks like here for the next couple of hours. So let's go ahead and get into it, I guess. with yesterday's results, today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Scores across the TSSAA on the volleyball court. It was Spring Hill defeating Franklin Christian in 5 sets, 3-2. It was Eagleville sweeping Oakland 3-0, and Siegel picking up a 3-0 sweep over Wilson Central. On the pitch in TSSAA girls soccer action, it was Martin Luther King defeating Hillsborough 3-2, and in district play, it was Rossview picking up an 11-2 win over Clarksville Northeast. In Major League Baseball, as Mo mentioned, it was the Nationals winning yesterday at Truist Park in a matinee 4-3. James Wood with 2 home runs in that matchup. Braves, all 3 runs of theirs came by 3 solo home runs, including one by Rookie of the Year contender Drake Baldwin. In Sacramento last night, Wade's Astros continue to slump and drag to the finish line. It was the A's 6-0 winners over the Stros in California.
High school football action tonight, 3 games, one of which I think is on Main Street Preps Radio, but I'm not sure which one, y'all. Sorry about that. I'm going to take a guess, though. Let's see. So Zion Christian is at Innovation Academy. That is a 7 o'clock kickoff. Also at 7 o'clock, it's the City Cats versus the County Cats. The Tullahoma Wildcats travel to the Lawrence County Wildcats. That's a 7 o'clock kick. I'm guessing that's going to be your Main Street Preps game of the week. Your other game tonight is Franklin County traveling to Murfreesboro, taking on Providence Christian at 7 o'clock. Volleyball action this evening at the high school level. These are 5 o'clock starts as Santa Fe goes to Fayetteville. Providence is at Spring Hill. Providence Christian is at Franklin Road Academy. That's a 5:45 start. Also at 5:45, Good Pasture is at Middle Tennessee Christian. 6 o'clock starts for Loretto at Collinwood, Culleoka at Eagleville. Gallatin traveling to Green Hill. Columbia Central is at Lawrence County in volleyball action. Also at 6 in volleyball action, it's Hampshire at Lewis County. Mount Pleasant hosting Summertown. Battle Creek goes to Murfreesboro Central. Blackman is at Rockvale. Warren County hosts Stewart's Creek. At 6:30, Oakland is at Siegel. And we don't have a start time for Cookville at Laverne.
Tonight's girls soccer action on the pitch. 4:30 start for Stratford at Glencliff. 5 o'clock starts for the following: Kip Antioch Global at James Lawson. Smyrna at Lebanon in district play. Webb School at Middle Tennessee Christian at 5 o'clock, also district play. And then Valor Collegiate at Cane Ridge. BGA at Franklin Christian. That is district play as well. 5:30 starts for Republic at Hunters Lane. In a district showdown, it is Battle Creek at Marshall County at 5:30. 6 o'clock starts for the following. It's a district match between Harpeth at McEwen, Providence Christian at Central Magnet. That is a non-district match. Tullahoma at Spring Hill. That is district play. Sycamore at West Creek. McGavick at White House Heritage. Dixon County at Davidson Academy. Those are non-district matches tonight. University School of Nashville at Friendship Christian. That is district play in Division II Single A. Antioch at Green Hill also at 6 o'clock. It is senior night for the Hawks as they look to rebound from a loss to Beach on Tuesday. There's coverage of that on the Gallatin News and the Chronicle of Mount Juliet. District play tonight, it is Cookville at Laverne. It is White House at Liberty Creek. At both of those are district play. 6 o'clock starts. 6:30 for the following: CPA at Lipscomb Academy in Division II AA. Also in Division II AA, it is Father Ryan at Pope John Paul. Little battle right there between rival schools. Franklin Christian, Franklin at St. Cecilia. That is a 6:30 start, district play as well. Watertown at Upperman. Franklin Road Academy at Brentwood Academy. Todd County, Central Kentucky, making the trip to Montgomery County to face Clarksville Northeast. Clarksville Northwest at Creekwood. Springfield at Ezel. Those are 6:30 starts. The last 3 of those non-district play. 7 o'clock start. Riverdale at Blackman. Ravenwood at Brentwood. Battle of the Woods. Franklin at Centennial. Giles County at Columbia. Zion Christian at Culleoka. Merle Hyde at East Robertson. Richland at Fairview. Station Camp at Harpeth Hall. Mount Juliet at Hendersonville. That is a battle for first place in Division District 12 AAA. Blaine Keller will be on the sidelines for that one. Tune in to him, and also later on the Hendersonville Standard and the Chronicle of Mount Juliet. Nolensville at Independence. That is also a 7 o'clock first touch. John Overton at Kirkwood. Clarksville at Montgomery Central. Oakland at Siegel. Page at Summit. Stewart's Creek at Wilson Central. That is all 7 o'clock starts. The last one, Stewart's Creek at Wilson Central, is district play. Then rounding it up, it is Rossview at Henry County at 7:30 on a lengthy girls soccer schedule. Tonight in Major League Baseball, we're actually here in the next 20 minutes. It's the Astros looking to find a way back into the MLB playoff picture. They're on the outside looking in. They face the Athletics in Sacramento at 2:35 first pitch. Tonight in the NFL, it's the Seattle Seahawks making the trip to the desert, take on Kyler Murray and the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. That is 7:15 tonight on Amazon Prime with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the call. Ladies and gentlemen, those were your scores. That was your lengthy schedule. And that concludes today's rundown.
Top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And stop me if you've heard this. Mark Byington has secured another 4-star commitment for his 2026 men's basketball recruiting class at Vanderbilt University. It's the third in about a week and a half now. Point guard Anthony Brown out of the D.C. area has said that he will sign with the SEC program for the 2026-27 school year. 49th prospect overall in the 2026 class and the number 14 point guard in the country, according to Rivals. Picked Vanderbilt over Maryland, Indiana, Tennessee, Memphis, Villanova, Syracuse, and Texas Tech, among others. Sounds pretty solid. And when you consider that the other two commits were a 6'9", 240 center out of Hoover, Alabama, Jackson Sheffield, and a 6'6", 215 forward out of Oak Hill Academy in Virginia, Ethan Mgbako, Mgbako. You need a point guard with that. So
yeah, and it looks like they're putting a fence around the DMV up in, I guess, the Virginia, D.C. area. So, Mo, I was going to say this, we live in the era now of the transfer portal, right? But you still have to be able to supplement your roster with high school recruiting, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, whatever, women's basketball. You have to be able to recruit incoming freshmen to help supplement, and you can go pick out certain pieces in the portal that you need for veteran players to add to your roster for some experience. And so I think Mark Byington, in his second full season now, coming over from James Madison, last year Vanderbilt's roster was really transfer portal heavy. And I think he understands even this year there's going to be a lot of people from the transfer portal that are going to play significant minutes for him. But looking into next season, he understands that we're going to have at least some underclassmen come in and help supplement this roster. You mentioned the size of the two previous commits, one from Hoover, Alabama area, the other from Oak Hill Academy in Virginia. The size, Vanderbilt, we talked about that with Joe Sullivan. Size is something that Vanderbilt really struggled with last year. That was a really good Vanderbilt team that just missed having some bigs. They probably make a deeper run than just the opening round of the tournament against St. Mary's if they have some size and some rebounding outside of Devin McLaughlin last year. But it's nice to see that Byington is recruiting multiple players that can play multiple different positions. Vanderbilt's system is very wide open, offensive focus, but you have to have some size when you play in the SEC.
No doubt. And again, with those 3 4-star commits, they are getting a lot of national attention right now. Brown played for Team Durant during the summer league, I guess, the EYBL circuit. Team Durant, you're probably familiar with Kevin Durant. His dad, Wayne Pratt, coached that team that Anthony Brown played for. So it kind of sounds like to me that kind of speaks for itself a little bit. 24/7 Sports ranks Vanderbilt's 2026 recruiting class number 3 in the country, behind Missouri and Florida State. Rivals list their class number 7 behind SEC rivals Missouri, Arkansas, and Alabama, who are 1, 2, and 3. So suffice it to say, again, Byington getting it done here in his second real shot at recruiting going forward, because like David said, really had to kind of play catch up and was heavy in the transfer portal early on, coming in from James Madison, now kind of getting his feet on the ground and getting his foot in some talented living rooms, obviously. So point guard Anthony Brown.
They're on a roll right now, just with football, the way things are going. You know, they have shovels in the ground, building new facilities. The Huber Center over there, the new basketball center that's, I guess, to the, I want to say the north end zone. That's of the football stadium. Like, you know, Shea Ralph, what they're doing on the girls circuit with Michaela Blake's, like Vanderbilt athletics. Feels like there's a new energy there with Candace Story-Lee at the helm. Mark Byington seems like a really nice fit to what they want to do right now. They're off the tournament last year, so Vanderbilt looks really good. And, you know, recruiting, that's the kids look for those things. They look for the flashy objects. What facilities do you have? How can you help me be a better player? How can you help me get to the league? Vanderbilt has Darius Garland in the league, Luke Cornett. So, I mean, the resources are there at Vanderbilt now for them to compete the way they want to, specifically in women's basketball and men's basketball.
They're certainly moving in the right direction, and this kind of having these kind of hits in recruiting doesn't hurt. And when you've got 3 4-stars already in your 2026 class, you kind of feel like there's more to come. So we'll be keeping an eye on how that develops for Coach Byington and the Vanderbilt men's basketball program. Let's take a break here as we continue Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll get into Coach's Corner with Whites Creek football coach William Darnell. Stick around.
All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs. Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
333.
Oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. This is Coach's Corner, and we are awaiting. Is that right, Mark? Do we have Coach Darnell? We do not have Coach Darnell. We are awaiting the arrival of Coach William Darnell of the Whites Creek Cobras. The Cobras off to a 5-0 start this season, and they are heading into Region 5 3A play this weekend. They've got Westmoreland coming to town, coming off of a 20-14 win this past weekend over Liberty Creek. Again, 5-0 thus far on the season are the Cobras, and it's a bit of a dramatic turnaround for Whites Creek, who had struggled, to say the least. I don't know that they've won more than 2 games over the past 4 or 5 years in any one season. So really excited to speak to Coach Darnell about what has contributed to that turnaround for them to this point as they, again, head into region play this weekend. So looking forward to speaking with Coach Darnell here in just a bit.
Looks like he's here now, no?
There he is. The man, the myth, the legend, William Darnell, coach of the undefeated Whites Creek Cobras, joining us here on Coach's Corner. Coach, thanks for taking some time with us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. I appreciate y'all taking time to bring me on, David and Maurice.
Coach, again, 5-0 heading into this weekend's Region 5 3A opener against Westmoreland at your place. And the program has had its struggles here over the last little bit, I guess, prior to this year. What has turned things around for you guys to this point?
Oh, many different things, Maurice. One of the main things, just the culture. The culture has changed. With before I got here, there were several good head coaches that came in, and none of them really stayed long enough to set the culture. But I've been here. This is my going my 5th year here. So I've been able to set some things in motion, and now we're seeing the fruits of it right now. So culture is big, and then also we've got some good talent, good kids, and I've got a great coaching staff to help me make sure this train is running.
You know, you said this is your 5th year, so these are all, quote, your guys. I mean, these guys haven't played for anybody other than you. And when you talk about setting the culture and that kind of thing, as we talk to coaches from time to time, they know what your expectations are, and there's not been any deviation from that or having to, you know, train any of these guys in any other way, I guess, or untrain any of these guys. And I would imagine that that's a big thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And then the group that we have now, Maurice, they've done where they came from with the middle schools and youth football leagues, has also helped us out in setting their culture. They already had high expectations where they came from. So I'm very thankful for that.
Coach, again, got Westmoreland coming up this weekend. How has your schedule to this point gotten you ready for this matchup right out of the box?
Well, one, Westmoreland with the double wing offense, we've seen it a couple of times this year already. So we're grateful for that. And then we played a couple more teams kind of built like Westmoreland, personnel wise, as well. So we're looking forward to the matchup. Coach Harrison did a great job at Westmoreland. And we're getting ready for a good night tomorrow.
Coach, you have one of the best signal callers in the mid-state with Deion Barnes, and you have one of the best wideouts in the mid-state as well, Darius Holland. What makes those two so special and so unique and a joy for you to coach? And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves through the first 5 weeks of the season.
Definitely. The talent speaks for itself. You can see that on the film. You can see that every Friday night. But I'm gonna be honest with you, David. What makes it a joy? You mentioned the word joy. What makes it a joy to see those guys every day. They're great kids. Great kids. I mean, very well-spoken young men, very amenable young men. Yes, sir. No, sir. Young men. And great students as well. So it's a pleasure. It's one thing I told my coaching staff. I got a lot of young coaches on my staff right now. I told them, I said, cherish this time when you got, kids that want to win, that are willing to do whatever, you ask of them, and very respectful at the same time, and great students. Those guys are A and B students. So I'm very, very grateful for their families deciding to let them come to White Creek. And I'm excited to work with them each and every day.
And what's crazy about those guys, Coach, is just that they're so young. I mean, they just continue. It seems like week by week, when I'm looking at box scores, just talking to reporters around the area, they just get better every week, and they're still so young. So it seems like that sky is just the limit for those guys. Obviously, with Holland having already multiple Division I offers, it seems like the sky is the limit for those two.
Definitely, they're young as far as their classification, but they put a lot of work in, a lot of time in. They do a lot of work over the weekend. With different trainers and things of that nature across the city. Appreciate them as well, contributing as well. They got a community around them. Those two guys, they've got good parents, good foundations. A lot of people are pouring into them, and you're seeing the fruits of it right now.
William Darnell, coach at Whites Creek, joining us here on Coach's Corner. And Coach, you mentioned, you appreciate their families for sending those student athletes to you at Whites Creek. There's kind of been a little bit of a drain on athletic talent in Metro Nashville over the years, and having to kind of fight that, I guess, to get guys that are supposed to be at your place. How difficult has that been, and how much has being able to retain your talent played into the success that y'all are having right now?
It's difficult, Maurice. There's a lot of great programs in mid-state, public and private. So there's a lot of options for these kids coming out of middle school. One thing that we try to do here at Whites Creek is just continue to build our culture, build our brand, and make it attractive to families and athletes to want to be a part of what we got going on out here at the Creek.
Looking at your scores here over the first half of the season, it looks like things have been pretty offensively oriented for you guys. What do you feel like the key, on the field has been for you all to this point?
One of the big keys, Maurice, is just the teamwork. These guys have really pulled together when they face adversity. We've hit adversity in almost every single game we've been in this year. We had a tough test up in Kentucky in our first game, and just last week, Liberty Creek gave us a run for our money in that second half. So they came together and worked even better as a team. When adversity hits, and that has contributed to all of our wins this season. And Maurice, I got a good staff as well. My staff has been locked in. When the times get tough and we're getting some adversity, they're coming together. They're putting our minds together, and we're coming up with a good plan and good modifications and things like that, and changes, adjustments at halftime. So very proud of them as well. Grateful for them.
Coach, this is your second stint as a coach in Metro Nashville. First time around out at Hunters Lane did not go especially well for you. What have you learned from your first head coaching role into this?
I learned a lot. I worked under several good coaches at my time in Hillwood. Coach Mose Phillips, Coach Jerry Link, Bubba Spears, and Coach Haskins as well. I coached, so I learned a lot from them coming out of Hillwood. Thought I knew what I was doing. thought I had a plan together. And things look a lot different when until you step into those shoes as a head coach. There's a lot more things to worry about and than you think. But I learned a lot from the mistakes that I made at Hunters Lane. Very grateful for that opportunity from Dr. Kessler and her staff. And then I moved over to work with Coach Brunetti. After I left Hunters Lane, and Coach Brunetti, his statistics speaks for himself. He's doing a great job at Pearl. He did a great job before I got there. Did a great job while I was there, and he's continued to do a great job. So I learned definitely a lot from him and his staff, and my time at Pearl Cone. And took a lot of things that I learned from him and other coaches that I talked to in around Mid-State as well. We got some great coaches around the area, and just put it all together, put my twist on it, and like I said, that now we're seeing the fruit. So I appreciate everybody that I've worked with before I got here as well. Like I said, it's just learning each and every day.
Coach, you mentioned just your region, preparing for Westmoreland tomorrow night. It's run, and then more run. They like to play football in a phone booth. You're also in a region with White House Heritage who likes to spread things out, jet sweeps, bubbles, etc. And then obviously with your familiar Metro Nashville schools with Stratford and Maplewood. Just talk to me about just the dynamics of your region and just the talent that's in there.
I believe we got one of the best regions in 3A. Just some well-coached football teams, and some good talent as well. From what I've been hearing, we take it 1 week at a time. Haven't looked down the road just yet, but I know we're going to have some good competition waiting for us each week. We're looking forward to the challenge.
Yep, that's an interesting dynamic in that region because you've got that crossover with the mid-state teams, so to speak, and the metro teams, and kind of some rivalries there. I mean, you don't have to tell your guys a whole lot when you're getting ready to go out there against Stratford or Maplewood in particular. Any problem, any concerns about their readiness for this game tomorrow night against a Westmoreland team that, isn't right next door per se, but is obviously a real key for y'all's success here in the second half?
Yes, sir, definitely. Every region game is big for us in our goals for this season. But the guys are ready, Maurice. They're ready for the challenge that I know Westmoreland is going to bring for us tomorrow night. We've had a great week of practice as well. So I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun tomorrow.
David mentioned a couple of particular cogs for you guys, but who is somebody that we should be talking about with this team right now that we aren't talking about, that by the end of the regular season, as you guys head into playoffs, folks are going to know who they are?
We got I'm gonna mention my wide receiver and defensive back, Andrew Pritchett. He's a sophomore, so he's also in that class with Holland and Barnes. Very talented young man, smart young man as well, good in the classroom, and does a lot of good things with the ball in his hands. So you'll hear about him if you have not already.
Andrew Pritchett. So that sophomore class is kind of where y'all's bread is buttered, so to speak, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The sophomore class is loaded with a lot of talent. Our junior class is good as well. We have a few seniors. We got about eight seniors that's contributing as well. So, but yeah, that sophomore class is leading the way on the field and in the classroom. They got the highest grade point average out of the team, that sophomore class. So very proud of them.
When you're dealing with a lot of sophomores like that, Coach, I would imagine it's a little bit of a two-edged sword because you don't want to get caught looking down the road. Boy, when these guys grow up, they're going to be really good. You want to get them good right now, but at the same time, you probably got to kind of deal with some youth issues from time to time.
Yes, sir, we do. And I remind the coaches of that pretty often. Just understanding that you may have to teach this sophomore group a little bit different than you would normally teach, a junior or a senior who's had time in the system and time at the high school level. But my coaches are doing a great job. The kids are doing a great job of accepting the coaching each and every day. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
When you guys are playing well, Coach, what are you doing?
What am I doing?
No. What is your team doing when y'all are playing well? What are you doing well?
Oh, what are we doing well right now? Well, what I mentioned earlier, Maurice, we're sticking together. When adversity hits, we're getting even tighter, even closer, which is big for any football program. And then too, also everybody is growing every day. Every day we come into the locker room, we start with a team meeting, and we're learning. The coaches are learning every day. In all of our meetings, we're getting together and we're coming up with great game plans for our opponents as well. But that's one of the biggest things that I would say is our contributions to our success this year is just everybody working together as one. Our motto this year is strike as one.
There we go. William Darnell, Whites Creek football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner. The Cobras, again, 5-0 heading into Region 5 3A action tomorrow night. They've got Westmoreland coming to the Creek. Should be a good one. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, and good luck to y'all as you go.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, the invite, Maurice and David, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you. We'll need it. Before we get out of this segment, let's tell you about our weekly awards. First of all, our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week award. Besides the military, there is no greater team building concept than athletics. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. Our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week is the Zion Christian Eagles. Eagles picking up their first victory as an 11-man program since they left the TSSAA at the end of the 2021 season. They defeated Christian Community 7-0 last week. Got a touchdown pass from Kingston Denny to Trey Johnson, and the defense made it stand up. So Zion Christian, who plays tonight against, at Innovation Academy, looking to make it 2 now. The Zion Christian Eagles are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Congratulations to them. Meanwhile, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week is Lionel Brooks from Spring Hill. The junior running back / quarterback rushed for 167 yards and a touchdown as the Raiders picked up their first win of the season, defeating Maplewood 23-11 last Friday night on the road. Big win for the Raiders, big performance, one of many thus far for Lionel Brooks, our TOA Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to him. Also want to shout out our Delta Dental Main Street Preps Player of the Week. This is a fan-voted award, and this week's goes to Colin Cagle of Richland. The junior running back had 85 rushing yards on 8 carries, scored a pair of second quarter touchdowns for the Raiders in their 42-8 win over at Community. Colin Cagle of Richland, our Delta Dental Main Street Preps fan-voted Player of the Week. Congratulations to him as well. Let's take a break here as we continue Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
September 25th, 2010, Derek Lowe doubled and scored. Alex Gonzalez hit a 3-run homer, and the Atlanta Braves won 5-0 at Nationals Park. The victory was the 2,500th of Bobby Cox's managerial career, making him just the fourth to reach that milestone after Connie Mack, John McGraw, and Tony La Russa. Cox and the Braves win 4 more games before his retirement at the end of the season, and he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame 4 seasons later, along with 2 of his pitchers, Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux. That was this day in Braves history. Braves did not defeat the Nationals yesterday. They fell to the Nationals 4-3, as David mentioned during the rundown. That loss ended a 10-game win streak for the Braves that got them to 75-84 on the season. 10 games ahead of the Nationals, as it is. But still, you know, those of us that were thinking the Braves were going to close things out on a flurry with a 14-game win streak, didn't quite happen that way. It's unfortunate.
No, I sent you on X. I'm not going to call it Twitter. Xmo. If the Braves were just 500 in their one-run losses, they would have been 2 games up in the National League wildcard picture going into yesterday. Yesterday was a 35th one-run loss for the Braves this season. It's kind of hard to imagine,
in 55 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's rough. I mentioned James Wood was kind of got him yesterday. 2 solo home runs by him. He's a really good player. And then all 3 of the Braves runs came via the solo home run. One by Drake Baldwin, another by Marcell Ozuna, and the last one by Eli White. But yeah, it's just I think we're just looking for the storylines now to close out this season. Obviously, Charlie Morton, we're going to talk about him shortly. That's one. And then I guess the question in the air is who's going to be the manager of this team at this point next year?
Yeah, that is a heck of a question. I mean, and it's been, you know, kind of alarmingly quiet, I guess, along those lines. Nothing's being said one way or the other. I don't know if it's an ignore it and it'll go away kind of thing, or what the approach is that the Braves are taking. Maybe they just feel like, let's just get done with the season and then we'll deal with that. I don't know, but and I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, I'm not going to stop rooting for the Braves regardless of who is making out the lineup on a day-to-day basis, but it's going to be tough for me to really invest myself in this team to the degree that I have if Snitker is back. All right, I just feel like I saw enough of him this year, and I think this team needs a different direction. I think it needs a different voice. I think you run into situations where that is the case, and I think this is one of those. And, you know, that's just my opinion. That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks or wherever else it is that you go. But that's my thought on it. So, Braves are off today. They've got Pittsburgh coming in tomorrow. Earlier this week, they picked up Charlie Morton after we unceremoniously knocked him out of that Friday game up at Detroit. And so it's your starting pitchers right now are scheduled to be Joey Wentz tomorrow, Spencer Strider on Saturday, and Charlie Morton is set to open Sunday's game. Chris Sale was expected to be the starter there. He will follow. And it'll be, I don't know, does Morton get an inning? Does he get 2 innings? How far does that go? I'll be interested to see how they treat that. I would imagine he will come out in the middle of an inning and allow the Braves crowd to, you know, acknowledge him for the good work he's done over now 3 stints in an Atlanta Braves uniform. He began his career in Atlanta, got traded off, went to Pittsburgh, went to Tampa Bay, came back to Atlanta. Obviously was at Baltimore earlier this year, did not go so well. Was at Detroit earlier this year, did not go so well. So, you know, he's coming back home for one final putting on of that Braves uniform. And I feel like this crowd will give him the proper send-off this weekend.
Yeah, I'm happy that he's going to get that opportunity to end his career in the uniform that he began. It's pretty cool that it's happening with the Pirates in the other dugout and another
Mhm.
organization that he spent time with. I mean, a consummate pro, consummate professional. The pitchers in that dugout, Spencer Strider, uh, Chris Sale, even though they're kind of on the same playing field, Spencer Schwellenbach, just the advice, the knowledge, the tutelage, whatever adjective you want to use that he'll help to give them. Max Fried, when he used to be in a Braves uniform. I mean, Charlie Morton was the ultimate resource for those guys, and that's why it's important to have a veteran on your staff to help lead your younger pitchers. So I can't say enough about him, and I hope that Braves country shows out on Sunday, even though it is the last day of the season, to give him the send off that he deserves. Can't say enough about him. I mean, he pitched on a broken leg for us to help us win a World Series, so he will always be remembered for that.
And it's kind of ironic as you walk through that and what he has meant to this pitching staff and these pitchers' development in Atlanta that he's going to be handing the ball to Chris Sale likely at some point on Sunday, because he kind of handed off that assignment of being that mentor for these young Atlanta pitchers to Chris Sale. He has filled that role in much the same way that Charlie did prior to his departure. So it's going to be really cool, and I'm expecting it to be a really cool moment when they come and get him and Chris Sale comes in out of the bullpen to take over that game in Sunday's season finale. I have to break myself for saying regular season finale, because this is it for Atlanta, and this is something that we really aren't used to, is wrapping up the season in September, but it's where we are, and I really hope folks enjoy getting us this year.
Yeah, I am sad as a baseball fan that the Braves will not face Paul Skeens. I believe he pitched last night in Cincinnati against the Reds, and I guess Pittsburgh was trying to keep the Reds out of the playoffs with their extra inning win at Great American Ballpark. To say that though, I'll go back to Chris Sale. He was injured with the broken rib for much of this season, but he was phenomenal this year yet again. And if he doesn't get hurt, I think you're making the case that him and Skeens are going back and forth for a Cy Young. And for Chris Sale to come over from Boston the last couple of years and just to be vintage Chris Sale that we saw when he won a World Series with the Red Sox and in Chicago with the White Sox, how good he was. Man, it's just he's a joy to behold, and I'm glad that he is in a Braves uniform because he fits the mold of a Braves pitcher.
He really does, man, and he's just kind of carried on that torch that we've seen develop here over, since the worst to first team back in 1991. Basically, that pitching has been such a hallmark of this franchise over this last 30, 35 years, and he has really fallen right into that as well. So again, I think it's going to be really cool when Charlie Morton gives the ball to Chris Sale at some point on Sunday. Might be one of the better moments of a tough season for Atlanta overall. You mentioned Houston getting blanked 6-0 by the Athletics yesterday. Seattle defeating Colorado 9-2. With that, the Mariners clinched the AL West Division Championship, and Houston has now lost 5 straight and is a game out of the third wild card spot in the American League. So all of a sudden, the Astros on the outside looking in at postseason.
Poor Wade. Poor Wade. I mean, he's kind of in the same boat that we are. I guess I wished it on him. When the Braves played the Astros a couple weeks ago in Truist Park, I said, man, Wade, I'm just trying to deal you some torture and some misery down the stretch. And the Astros haven't missed the playoffs since 2016. And I mean, the Braves have been there so many years of late. It's just like those are two teams that you could close your eyes at the beginning of the year and just say, Braves, Astros, they're going to find a way to make the postseason. It just seems like, at least on obviously the Braves case, but with the Astros case, they're just not playing their best baseball right now. It's hard for me to find a way to think that they're going to get in. I guess encouraging note for them is Detroit is playing equally as bad, and they're struggling too. Skubal lost to the Guardians up in Cleveland. Scary situation in that game with David Fry getting hit in the face, getting multiple fractures. But man, the Tigers and the Astros, two teams that are just absolutely reeling down the stretch.
And Cleveland dealing the Tigers a 5-1 loss yesterday. Cleveland now a game up in the AL Central. And two teams that, like you said, you would have felt like were locks for the postseason, pre-All-Star break, in the Tigers and the Astros. One of them's not going because the
Yeah,
other
that's
one is going
crazy.
to be
That's
your third
crazy.
wild card. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. So Detroit is
So
at Cleveland today. The Dodgers are at Arizona today. Boston is at Toronto, and those all have postseason implications as well because the Dodgers defeated Arizona 5-4 in 11 yesterday. Combined with Milwaukee's 3-1 win over the Padres, the Dodgers have a 2.5 game lead in the NL East. The NL West over the Padres. Again, both those teams are going to get in, but the Dodgers are starting to open up some ground in terms of the NL West title.
yeah, looking at my cheat sheet, thanks to my account with MLB. Appreciate you guys sending some notes over. Dodgers can clinch the NL West tonight with a victory against the D-backs, so that is something to watch. And then the Guardians, they can clinch a postseason berth tonight if they beat Detroit and a loss by the Astros this afternoon in a game that's currently underway in Sacramento. So we're on champagne alert across the country.
Yeah, clubhouse attendants are paying a lot of attention across, like you said, either bringing it out or getting all of that plastic pulled down in a hurry when somebody doesn't clinch. So yeah, it's that's fun stuff for a lot of folks to keep an eye on.
Mo, I asked Calvin this really quickly yesterday. Do you remember the last time the Mariners won the division? Obviously, they won it yesterday, but 2001. Do you remember that? Because I asked Calvin, I was like, "How old were you in 2001?" He said, "I was not born yet." So Calvin, for the first time in his life, has seen the Mariners up in the Pacific Northwest win a division title. I was 2.
So you didn't really see it either then, huh?
Nope.
No, I remember it. That was Seattle won like 116 games that year, I think. Lou Piniella was the manager, and I think they went out in the first round of the playoffs. But yeah, that was Ken Griffey and Jay Buhner and that bunch. Great ball club. Again, 116 regular season wins and really nothing to show for it. That's really kind of unfortunate. So they'll be looking to, not necessarily redeem that, but maybe kind of exercise some ghosts this time around. Raleigh hit a 60th last night, right?
He did, and I told Calvin this yesterday. It's good for baseball to have the Mariners in the playoffs. It is good for Cleveland for baseball to be in the playoffs. Those are small market teams, but very energetic and rowdy fan bases. If Detroit makes it, it is good for baseball for Detroit to be in the playoffs in the American League. It feels like that American League is wide open. I know the Yankees are making a run now with Toronto for that division title in the AL East. But the American League, at least in my eyes, is wide open. And I'll say this: although I want to see the Braves in the playoffs, it is good for baseball that the Cubs are in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, you're probably right. I had to kind of take that 30,000-foot view, like you said, to get there. But yeah, you're right, Ed. And these smaller market teams in particular, with all of the money that's being spent and that kind of thing, it's nice to see them. Coach Darnell was talking about adversity a little bit ago in the last segment, but it's nice to see some of these teams deal with some adversity and break through to the postseason, like the Mariners, who have been out of it for almost 25 years. So it'll be fun to watch once we get started next week, and there's still some work to be done, obviously.
Hey, Mo, I was just looking really quickly at just potential scenarios if the postseason began today. Obviously, the Yankees and the Blue Jays are tied right now atop the American League East. So right now, the tiebreaker goes to Toronto. If the playoffs started today in the AL wildcard series, you get Yankees versus Red Sox in the wild card. That would be fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. Sign me up for that right now. In the season today, I want Red Sox, Yankees, and I want Dodgers and Mets in my playoffs for the wild card 2 out of 3. Sign me up right now.
Dodgers, Mets, huh? Okay.
Then the winner plays Philly. I mean, that's I love it. Let's do it today, right now.
I think the TV folks would be with you on that Yankees-Red Sox matchup in particular. So, yeah, that'll be something to pay attention to again here over the next 4 days as we close out the regular season here. So, again, Cal Raleigh hit his 60th. MVP, Judge or Raleigh?
I think you have to give it to Cal Raleigh. 60 home runs, most by a switch hitter, most by a catcher in a season. The physical toll it takes to be a catcher, to understand pitching stats, not only your starters, your relievers. I get it. Aaron Judge is an otherworldly player. I was going to put a note yesterday. He passed Mickey Mantle for most 2 home run games by a Yankee in history, just trailing, obviously, the Babe Ruth. Aaron Judge is a historic player, but this is an historic season that we might not ever see again from a catcher. And with Seattle winning the division for the first time since 2001, how can you not give it to Cal Raleigh? You got to – I mean, I'm just saying, Aaron Judge could win it every year. He could, just like Ohtani. Ohtani could win it every year. Give it to Cal Raleigh this year because he had an otherworldly season, helped his team win the division for the first time in 2 decades.
I think that's kind of what's getting lost a little bit. I mean, it's most valuable player. And I think if you take Raleigh off of Seattle and you take Judge off of the Yankees, I think you've got 2 completely different teams there. I just don't think that Seattle has the success that they've had without Raleigh. I think the Yankees are more likely to be successful without Judge. A lot of folks are kicking on Raleigh's batting average as a reason that he shouldn't be in that position. But I just think that doing what he's done, and as I've said before, at the most demanding defensive position in the sport.
I agree.
Feels like
I would
Raleigh
give it
to
to
me.
Cal Raleigh. I would give it to him. I saw Jeff Passan on ESPN, who has a vote, say if he had to go today, he would go Judge. And I get it. Like I said, he is an historic player. The batting average is great. Like he's played center field for the Yankees at 7 foot tall, however big he is. But I think as a catcher, Cal Raleigh deserves this. It would be different if he was just strictly a DH, but the fact that he catches a bunch for those guys, I think Cal Raleigh is your AL MVP, at least in my eyes. It will be close. It will be very close.
Oh, it'll be close for sure. Let's take a break as we close out hour number 1 of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for hour number 2, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with Steve Layman of News Channel 5 talking Tennessee Titans. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Joining us now from News Channel 5, it is Steve LAYMAN as we consider the Tennessee Titans 0-3 following yesterday's most recent beatdown by the visiting Indianapolis Colts. Steve, good afternoon.
Mo, Wade, how are we doing today?
We're hanging in there.
We're doing okay. The question is, I think Brian Callahan had a 12:40 press conference. How is Brian Callahan doing?
Probably not as good as any of the three of us are doing, that's for sure. The Titans did not play very well yesterday, and I think there's two big concerns if you're Brian Callahan right now, guys. Is number one of the big things this year was the growth of the Titans. I don't think anybody, if they're being honest, even the most diehard Titans fans, expected this team to come in and compete for a division title or maybe even get to the playoffs this year. But you were looking for growth and progress in year two under your head coach. I don't think you can point to anything in these first three games that says this team is demonstrably better. You may like Cam Ward. There's a lot of football left to be played. But I don't think there's anything to point to in the first three games that says, oh, this team has taken a big jump in that area. Maybe special teams under Bones Fossil, but by and large, not much. And then the second part of it is we're having a conversation about Brian Callahan's ability to manage in-game situations right now. We talked about it in week one with the Io Manor catch along the sideline and his mishandling of the situation in the 2-minute drill late in the first half. We're doing it again now in week three. This was not a common theme that we had last year about Brian Callahan and his game management. Now, all of a sudden, it has been an almost weekly thing here at the start of the season. And as an embattled head coach, that's a problem. When your team's not playing well, if we're also discussing your in-game management and decision-making, you've got a lot to answer for. And at the moment, he doesn't really have the answers.
And that seems to be the worst problem. He doesn't have the answers.
Yeah, I think that's a problem for everybody at the Titans organization at the moment. Is there's a lot of things that are wrong right now. The roster has not been good for the last several years, even going back to the end of Mike Vrabel's tenure here. And every answer they've had, whether that be big spending in free agency or going into the draft, whatever it might be, has really not panned out to make the roster better. I think this is now basically year 4 of operating with a bottom 5 roster, certainly bottom 10 roster in the NFL, and it doesn't really show signs of getting better in that regard. So that's an issue right there. But then from a coaching staff, you got to find a way to make the most out of whatever you do have on that roster. And at the moment, it just really doesn't seem like Brian Callahan, his coordinators, or the position coaches on this team are really making the most out of what they have. And so you just have a bad football team on the field.
Steve, the national media is now kind of circling for the first time, really, it feels like, in terms of Callahan and his job security. And this was the thing that the Titans maybe had at their advantage, was the fact that not a lot of people were paying attention to him. Now with kind of some national headlines kind of circling and 3 road games coming up, where does this go from here in your mind with Callahan and the rest of the team?
Wade, I think the noise only gets louder as long as they keep losing and looking dysfunctional in the process. And the reason why people are checking in is because people are excited about Cam Ward. He was the number 1 pick in the draft, and he's a quarterback that many believe can be a franchise-type talent in this league. And so you check in to see his progress, and you watch a team around him look completely dysfunctional. And in a case like yesterday, if you tune in at the end of the first half, you see a head coach who wasted timeout immediately after the other team's timeout, still can't make up his mind, doesn't get the kicking team on the field quick enough. They take a delay of game penalty to move an already long 57-yard field goal back to 62 yards. They miss it. The Colts get the ball. They move into field goal range, kick their own field goal before halftime, and there's boos all around at Nissan Stadium. And I think you just immediately scratch your head if you don't check in every week and say, what the heck is going on there? What is Brian Callahan doing? And so I do think the noise is only going to continue to grow on that front until they find a way to change this momentum and maybe win a game they're not supposed to.
And making that matters worse, Steve, ownership was on hand. You know, Mike Keith goes in the Ring of Honor yesterday, so the quote-unquote big dogs were all there, and the Boo Birds were as loud as they could realistically be at Nissan. Steve, I do want to ask you, though, on the flip side, man, it felt like we saw maybe a Coach of the Year candidate with Shane Steichen. How did the Colts somehow rise from the ashes, a team that was basically irrelevant in their own right last year, who looked pretty doggone good yesterday?
Yeah. I think the biggest answer there is they've solved their quarterback position, at least for now. When you talked about the Indianapolis Colts in the offseason or even in training camp, as there was a position battle going on there, I didn't have any faith in the quarterback position. I didn't have faith that Anthony Richardson was the answer for this team, and I still don't in the long term. But I never doubted the roster that they had around the quarterback position. It's actually kind of the exact opposite. If you like Cam Ward at the moment, you may think he's got the talent and can be the long-term answer, but the pieces around him aren't any good, so it's really hard to see that right now. Indianapolis has been the opposite. They've had a roster that has looked like a team that was poised to compete, at least in the division and for a playoff spot over the last couple of years, and they have gotten putrid quarterback play that hasn't allowed them to take off. Daniel Jones has come in and been first and foremost efficient and protected the ball. And then beyond that, at times he's been borderline spectacular to this point. They punted for the first time all year yesterday. They punted one time. And so this is a team through 3 games that has only punted the football once. They can run the ball very effectively with Jonathan Taylor behind that big bruising offensive line. And if Jones continues his play of efficient, productive football from the quarterback position, this is now the team to beat in the AFC South, I think clearly, and a team that could make some noise in the AFC.
Steve Layman of News Channel 5 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Steve, you know, we've kind of set it up here with all of the missteps on the part of Brian Callahan through these first 3 games. He's 3-17 now for his career. His next 3 games are on the road. Texans, Cardinals, Raiders. The last coach that got fired, well, I'll take that back. The last coach that got fired was Mike Vrabel. But before that, Ken Wisenhunt got fired at 3-20.
Yeah, and don't forget about Mike Mularkey in there too. There's been a lot of firings around.
There've been a bunch of firings, but
and the front office. But I get your point, Mo, and it's a very difficult stretch here. Number one, Houston is always a red letter game for the Tennessee Titans. That game with the Titans going back to Houston may be the game with the most animosity between a city and another organization and the ownership group of that organization that you will find in the National Football League. So that is always a game that both entities have circled on their calendar, and certainly will be the case again for Amy Adams-Strunk. So I would advise Brian Callahan and the Titans not to lay an egg on Sunday, because that could result in very bad vibes from the ownership on down early next week. But even after that, the Cardinals look really good right now. By the way, the Cardinals are run in the front office by a guy who used to work for the Titans. So another combination there or connection that Amy Adams-Strunk might think about when that game goes on. And then you go into Vegas, a team coached by a first-year head coach, to end out that 3-game road trip. And if you don't get a win in one of those 3, even if you play them close and you survive each week, then you get to that magical number that you were alluding to, Mo, where Brian Callahan would be 3-20 overall midway through his second season. And that's exactly what Ken Wisenhunt was when he was fired back in 2015, shortly after Amy Adams-Strunk took over as the controlling owner of this franchise. That's a number you don't want to get back to. I don't think they want to make a move. They would like to keep more consistency here for their young quarterback. But at some point, if the losses keep piling up, it's going to happen. And if they go 0-3 on this road trip, I could certainly see a move being made then.
And if you go 0-3 on this road trip and a move is not made, then your next home game is against the Patriots, who are coached by a pretty familiar face as well.
Yeah, no question. Mike Vrabel coming back, and you got to imagine, Mo, he would be out for blood coming back. He's not going to feel sorry for Brian Callahan or Amy Adams Strunk or anybody around the Titans organization. And so as you look at it, the sad thing is here, just 3 games into the season, I feel like we're sort of putting benchmarks out there for if Brian Callahan is still the coach or not at this point. Does he make it through this weekend in Houston and that red letter day? Does he make it through the end of this road trip, the 3 games that they play back to back to back here on the road? Does he make it past the showdown with Mike Vrabel on October the 19th? Does he make it to the bye week there in the second weekend of November? There's basically now 4 benchmarks between now and the bye week at the midway point of the season that you're going to have to check in on to see if Brian Callahan is still the head coach of this football team. And that's just a disastrous place to be, namely if you're Callahan, but for the organization, because they're trying to get guys to play hard. They're trying to build up some continuity here, help their young quarterback grow to a place where you can figure out if he's the guy or not. And at the moment, there's just a ton of distractions around that, because remember last year, you were trying to figure out whether Will Levis was the guy or not. And what you found out last year was he wasn't. But what that kind of allowed is when he went out, you just sort of allowed everything else to play, because you weren't going to make a move on Callahan. He was going to come back this year, and you keep going there. And obviously they make the move with Rand Carthon then in the offseason. But now it feels like the clock is just ticking on the next move, and it almost feels like that stagnates any progress you can make anywhere else on the roster, which is why I think that seat is going to grow increasingly warm, at least from the outside, for Brian Callahan here in the next few weeks.
And you make the point, Steve, that you want to try, for the sake of stability with your number 1 pick at quarterback, you want to try to get through this situation. But at the same time, if things continue to transpire like they have transpired over this first 3 weeks at that spot, how much good are you doing, Cam, by having Brian Callahan in that position?
Yeah, it's really hard, because you're talking about weighing 2 things here, guys. Is I think, if you're being honest with yourself, you would love the Titans to get to a place where they have some level of continuity and consistency amongst the football hierarchy over there, whether that's the front office, the coaching staff, or both together. They just haven't had that over the last several years, really about 5 years, going back to the decision to part ways with John Robinson. But at the same time, I'm also a big believer in momentum. And sometimes when it goes really bad, it's very difficult to regain the belief, to get a professional locker room to think this head coach is the guy who can lead us to the next step. We can follow him. We will continue to get better. I know we're not seeing the results right now, but we will get there. I don't know if you can realistically expect this locker room to continue to follow a coach that's 3-17, going on 3 and whatever over the next several weeks here, unless they somehow get a result or 2 in this mix. And so it's a really difficult process, because I thought over the summer, I thought it was really important that the Titans give a fair shot to Callahan, really give him the entire season here to work it out for Cam Ward, because you also don't want to blow it all up on Ward. So your prized quarterback has to learn a completely new offense again next year and get reintegrated and all that, and have to start over again essentially in year 2. That's the worst thing you can do for a young quarterback. But at the same time, maybe the worst thing you can do for the football is keep doing the same thing that's getting you beat. And so that is something that everyone, from Amy Adams Strunk to Burke Nyhill to Chad Brinker to Mike Borgonzi, they're going to have to be talking about over the next several weeks here into this season is, are you trying to keep things the same for Cam to get the most out of him and see if you can make him the guy that you can believe in long term? Or are you trying to figure out if you can win any games at all this season? Because I think your decision-making process is very different based on the answer to that question.
Steve, I wanted to ask you too, the news comes out late last week that T'Vondre Sweat, he's on IR, so you're going to miss him at least all those games on that road trip and probably even that Patriots game. But what can you tell us, what updates did we get coming out of yesterday's result? Maybe, if any, promising updates in terms of the offensive line and elsewhere injury-wise?
Yeah, injuries are starting to pop up for sure, Wade. That's a big one. I think T'Vondre Sweat being out against a team that wants to run the ball like the Colts is a big, impactful loss, and they're going to miss him over the next several weeks as well. I think you may get some good news this week on the offensive line. There is a shot, at least as we stand here on Monday, that both Kevin Zeitler and J.C. Latham can be back on the right side. I'm not sure they both will, but I think there's a shot, which at least is good news in the sense that I don't think you're talking about a long-term injury like Sweat, where you're going to have to hold them out now 3 or 4 games to get them back into the fold. I think they're going to be back potentially as soon as this week, but certainly in the next couple of weeks, which is big for that offensive line, which along with Cam Ward not getting the ball out in time and maybe receivers not getting open as much as they need to or as quickly as they need to, has led to an NFL high 15 sacks so far this season. But there are some nicks and knacks on this roster right now, and they just can't afford that because probably the most glaring thing is the fact they don't have any depth. It's not a good, talented roster. But when they start to lose guys, there's literally nothing behind them right now to go in and make plays. And I think you saw that at times late in the game yesterday.
Steve Layman of News Channel 5 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Tennessee 0-3 following yesterday's 41-20 loss to the Indianapolis Colts, heading to the other 0-3 team in the AFC South, the Houston Texans, this weekend. And, you know, Houston 0-3 after losing to Jacksonville yesterday. So, you know, as you mentioned, this is kind of a benchmark game within, you know, this franchise, but Houston's certainly looking to get right this weekend as well.
No question about it. You're going to get a motivated Texans team that basically is on its last legs to try to save this season. The statistic is if you start 0-3, you've got a 2% chance to make the playoffs. And this was a Texans team that was predicted by almost everybody to win the AFC South again this season. And here they are at 0-3 with a loss to Jacksonville, who isn't even the best team in the division at this point, with Indianapolis at the top. And so I think it's been a very, very disappointing start in Houston. Their offensive line is a mess. We talk about the Titans' problems. The Texans are equally as bad up front on the offensive line. And it's not a great roster around C.J. Stroud and some of the talented pieces they have there offensively. They do have some great pass rushers on the other side that will test the Titans for sure. But this is a game where you're going to have a very hungry Texans team to try to salvage something of the first month of the season and see if they can get back going in the right direction and get into this AFC South race. And you have a Titans team that's really going to be fighting for jobs, quite literally, I think, when they hit the field Sunday in Houston. So there's a lot to play for, even though really all they're playing for Sunday is the opportunity to get out of the cellar.
Yeah, it's not playoffs or pink slips, as a former Titans owner once said, but there really feels like there's a lot at stake for the Titans in this one against, like you said, an equally hungry Houston Texans team this weekend. Steve, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. And
real quick, Steve, you know, you and I are friends, and I hate to do this, but Mo and I talked about it a minute ago before you got on the show. Illinois at Indiana. What the heck happened on Saturday? I'm sorry, brother. I got to ask you.
I'm sorry. Is our time up?
There's the bell.
Look, it was bad. It was a really, really bad performance all the way around. It was just kind of a snowball going downhill. Indiana played great. They're way better this year than they were last year, if anybody has watched them over the course of 2 years. Kirk Cignetti's done an incredible job, and he returned 17 or 18 starters from last year's team that went into the playoffs. And the guys he lost, he may have replaced with better guys. Like Curtis Rourke was a really good player, but he was a transfer from JMU. He replaced him with a guy who's going to be at the top of draft boards for many people next year, and Fernando Mendoza at the quarterback position. And he was unconscious for a second straight week and really all 4 games that Indiana has played so far. That is a really good football team that I think has an opportunity to get back to the playoffs once again this year. Illinois didn't play well. Brett Bielema's team, since he's been at Illinois and really throughout his career, generally don't hurt themselves. They got a punt blocked for a touchdown early on in that game. They missed over 20 tackles in the game. Those are mistakes that you just don't normally see from them. And then the injuries started to pile up in that game. They had 10 DBs on the trip, 10 total DBs on the traveling roster. 7 of them got knocked out of the game.
Oh, my word.
And so by the time you got to the second half of the game, they just didn't have bodies on the field either. So it was ugly. It was probably one of the hardest games I've ever had to sit through as an Illinois alum and fan. I don't think Indiana is 63-10 better than Illinois if they played that game a lot, but I do think they're better than Illinois, and on that night they certainly were 63-10 better. And so great job by Kurt Cinetti in Indiana. I think you're going to see a lot more big-time performances from them this season, and Illinois has got to go back to the drawing board. Number one, to figure out how to get healthy before they play USC this weekend, but number two, to figure out some of those things that went so wrong on Saturday night.
I was going to ask you, Steve, I felt bad about asking you that a moment ago, but can I offer you USC making the trip all the way out to Champaign at an 11 a.m. kickoff? If there was ever maybe a spot to get back right, this feels like it could be it for your Illini this weekend.
Sure. If nobody wants to tell them what time to set their alarm and maybe they oversleep a little bit and get to Memorial Stadium a little bit late for kickoff, that could certainly play into Illinois' hands. Probably wasn't talked about enough last year how much the time zone travel.
Mo and I talked about it a bunch.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
The teams from the West Coast coming east
did
not fare well last year. And the teams from the Midwest going west largely did not fare well last year. And so now you're starting to see that again this week. You've got USC going to Illinois. You have Ohio State going out to Washington. And obviously the big one on Saturday night with Oregon against Penn State in Happy Valley will be interesting. Can any of the teams doing the traveling multiple time zones, different body clock situation and all that, can they rise up, play well, and get a big win? That's almost more impressive than the teams they're having to play in a lot of ways. So it's going to be a fun weekend in the Big Ten. Some big games, obviously, in the SEC as well, but not quite the same travel for any of those teams.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way the Southeastern Conference kind of kept all their states in touch with each other as they expanded. Was this ever discussed during these decision-making processes?
No, I think they just discussed the cha-chings in the background and the bank account getting bigger and bigger with the brands they added. Look, it's a national sport at this point, so teams are used to traveling, and this was all done for football, and it's not all that different than the NFL when you think about it. The Titans traveling to Arizona or Vegas or Seattle, wherever they have to do, or vice versa. It's just what the schedule is. Where it gets really funky, guys, and we all know this, is when you have Oregon and Rutgers playing in field hockey on like a Thursday night in the fall. What in the world is that, and how does that make any sense? That's one of the many things that I think they'll have to long-term figure out for the health and frankly, the safety of the student-athlete experience in sports beyond football and maybe men's and women's basketball, maybe volleyball or something like that. But a lot of these sports need to stay more regional, keep it better for that experience. But when it comes to football, I think that ship has sailed. They want to make the most money they can, have the most competitive matchups. And it's hard to argue when you look at some of those matchups in the Big Ten or even the addition in the SEC, Oklahoma, Auburn last week, Texas joining into the league. It's hard to argue you're not getting better matchups just about every week now because of the conference expansion.
Oregon, Rutgers playing field hockey, and some of those folks having term papers due the next day as well, by the way. So,
yeah.
Steve, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
But thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from Penalty Box Radio, Ann Kimmel, to talk a little Nashville Predators. Again, NHL regular season's closer than you think. Ann, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. I'm just kind of having trouble grasping the fact that we're 2 weeks away, basically, from the start of the regular season?
Yep. Puck drops for the Nashville Predators October 9th for the first regular season game. They've got some preseason practices and preseason games already under their belt. So things are getting back into full swing. It happened awful quick.
It did. It feels like it really did. And where are we on the Luke Evangelista front right now?
Oh, I tell you what, we are in the pass me a Tums and what are we doing phase here. So what we know as of right now, Luke Evangelista and his agent and Barry Trotz are a little bit at an impasse. They have agreed on term. We're looking at a 2-year deal. The problem is they can't seem to agree on the money aspect of it. So Luke Evangelista has been missing training camp and preseason games while this is sort of lingering on. It's an interesting situation. This is one where I feel like, this may be not the financial hill we want to die on for either party. It sounds like the ballpark isn't as large as you would think it would be. You'd think they'd be able to find each other in the size of this ballpark. But as of now, Luke Evangelista back in Canada. He is training in Canada, ready to get back to camp as soon as a deal is done. But right now, they seem to be a little bit of a stalemate when it comes to salary.
And I mean, obviously, we don't know how big the ballpark is, but I mean, is there a split the difference option there, or what are we gathering? Are they content right now to die on this hill, both parties?
Man, I don't know what we're doing here. What we have heard from some NHL insiders is that the contract that Luke Evangelista is sort of using as a comparable is Jack Quinn, who plays for the Buffalo Sabres. Very, very similar stats as far as experience, age, scoring. And Jack Quinn just signed a 2-year, $3.375 million deal. Is that maybe a little bit of an overpay for Luke Evangelista? Yeah, it could be a little bit of an overpay. But at this point, with $9 million sitting in your back pocket, there is no reason not to get close enough for this to be a deal that's done. This is definitely not a team that needs drama hanging over training camp, considering where they came from last season. So I'm really surprised we're still waiting for this deal to get done. And somebody's got to move here because this is a player that you want on your roster. This is a team that doesn't need any more distractions.
Yeah, this isn't like the goalie that wound up at San Jose last year, right? I mean, this is a different situation.
This is a different situation. He probably won't get traded. Barry Trotz has said there is no thought of trading Luke Evangelista. We'll see where that ends up. But something has to get done by December 1st. If no deal is done by December 1st, Luke Evangelista cannot play in the NHL. The Predators retain his rights. So this is something that I think everybody thought would be done before training camp, thought it would be done a couple days into training camp. And friends, we are just still sitting here eating popcorn and wondering, what are we doing, guys?
Do you think we are realistically talking about a holdout into the season?
I hope not. But I will say this. There have been a couple of young players who have looked very, very good in the small sample size we've had of preseason games and in some of the training camp practices. So there is a part of me that thinks that maybe Barry Trotz feels like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to give much because I have some other bodies that could step into the lineup. I hope that these guys can come to some sort of agreement. I just don't understand if the numbers that we're hearing are accurate. I'm not quite sure why this hasn't been done. But we'll wait and see. It could. I don't think anybody thought we'd be sitting here today talking about where is Luke Evangelista.
Is this the biggest storyline at this point in camp, do you think? And if not, what is?
It is definitely one of the biggest. I've been impressed by how small a distraction overall it has been for the team. Of course, this is a team where individual players and collectively, they all have a lot they need to focus on that doesn't have to do with another teammate's contract. I do think one of the big storylines that is just unfolding right now is that defenseman Nick Hague is out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury he sustained in a preseason game. And this becomes a bigger deal. He was an off-season acquisition. One of the big priorities for Barry Trotz is to get bigger and stronger on defense. Nick Hague is the full-size candy bar at Halloween. He is 6'6". He is over 200 pounds. He is a lot of defenseman, and they were really pleased with the small sample size they had of him playing with Roman Josi. He's out now, so there is a little bit of a shuffling going on when it comes to the defenseman, and I think that's going to become a bigger story because he is going to probably miss the start of the season. Another positive storyline is the performance of some of these young players. Matthew Wood and Brady Martin, these young whippersnappers, have come into training camp and they look very, very competitive. And so I think that there's a lot of positives that you can focus on, but still there's a little bit of drama around a team that really needs none of that.
Yeah, and you kind of took the question right out of my mouth, mentioned Nick Hague. Who is somebody specifically maybe that you're looking on that defensive unit, on that pairing to step up in his place with his injury for at least the beginning of the season?
Yeah, this is really tough because he was brought in to play on that top defensive pairing with Roman Josi. And to get the right guy to play with Roman Josi, it's a pretty unique fit because Josi kind of goes out there and does his own thing. But I do think the Predators feel pretty good about a couple of options. And I think the one that I like best, the one that we have seen since this injury, is Adam Wilsby, who is a young defenseman. We saw just 26 games last season before he was injured, missed the rest of the season. But Adam Wilsby has come in. He's very, very strong physically, very smart defensively, can clear space really well in front of the net. And he and Josi played together against Tampa Bay. I think that looked really, really good. So my best guess is that we're going to see Adam Wilsby play on the top line with Roman Josi. There are a couple other options, but I really think for what you want with Josi and to keep things consistent for Roman Josi, Adam Wilsby is probably your best option.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the young whippersnapper, first-round pick, Brady Martin, scoring 2 goals the other night against Tampa Bay in the preseason. What do you feel like his role is going to be for this team, and what has maybe impressed the front office so far with just his ability and his knack? Obviously, a very young player.
Yeah, just 18 years old. And when Brady Martin was selected 5th overall by the Preds, it was a little bit controversial because I think that a lot of people felt like there were players with a more clear ceiling available to Nashville. But Barry Trotz feels very strongly about this pick. And if you've seen him at training camp and if you've watched him in the preseason, you get an understanding of why. This is a young 18-year-old player who plays with a ton of confidence. He is very good and he's got multiple layers to his game. Of course, he's very good offensively. He's great shooting, great at distributing the puck, but he also loves to hit. He loves the physicality of the game. He's a very good forechecker. He sees the game unfold very well. This is somebody who everybody suspected was going to go back, play another year in juniors. He could play 9 games of the NHL season right out of the gate before his contract kicks in. And he's making a case for Barry Trotz to think long and hard about what to do with him. He has a lot of energy, very likable. Barry Trotz talked about the it factor, and you know it when you see it. And when you talk to Brady Martin, you instantly get the it. So his off ice energy, his off ice personality, very good for this locker room. It infuses a lot of energy. His skill on the ice has been high. He's been playing with Philip Forsberg. He's been playing with Matthew Wood. So I think Brady Martin has made camp very interesting, and it's going to make a lot of decisions more challenging when it comes to Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz and this opening night lineup.
And to follow up on that, it's my understanding that Milwaukee's not an option for Brady because of his age. Is that right?
Right. He would have to go back to juniors and play another year in juniors, or he really could stay in Nashville and play at the NHL level. If he plays more than 9 games, then his entry-level contract kicks in. As long as he goes back to juniors, that is paused. So it will be interesting to see. A lot of times you want them to go back to juniors, as fun as and as exciting as he is. It's always great to get them more time, get them a little bit more development. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Milwaukee is not an option for him this season for age. So it's either going to be juniors, a brief stint in the NHL, or he's just going to go into the NHL and they're going to start paying him.
And, for an 18-year-old, it feels like that is, over an 82-game season, a lot to throw at somebody.
It is. It's a lot physically. An 82-game season is very different than a 63-game AHL season or an NCAA shorter season, a junior season. But it's also a lot more mentally. And some of the young players last season ran into that because you not only need that physical recovery time for a more physical and fast game, but you also need mental recovery time. And in the NHL, you're playing multiple games a week. It's a different schedule. So just staying fresh physically and being prepared mentally is a big challenge for an 18-year-old who really hasn't played at that level for 60 minutes or at that level for 82 games.
And it feels I'm going to ask you to bring out your crystal ball for me and maybe set some goals for this group. It feels like last year when we had you on in the preseason, just before puck drop to start the year, there was different conversations about what this Predators team could have been last year. A lot of high expectations with, the moves that Barry Trotz had made in the offseason. Feels like it's a night and day difference now here a year later. Realistically, though, what do you feel like the goals are? I mean, the goals, you want to make the playoffs, right? That's a first goal. But realistically, what do you feel like can be expected of this group in 2025, 2026?
Yeah, last season, those were the good old days. And then we played 82 games and we aged like 2-term presidents. It was a whole missing of expectations. Expectations are very different this preseason, I think, internally and externally for this team. And the players like that. I think it's a little bit easier to come in as the underdog than as the team that is supposed to surprise everybody. Realistic expectations is actually kind of difficult to say yet, because what we've seen in the preseason games, we've seen a lot of opponents playing their prospects. So we haven't seen Nashville's NHL roster versus another team's NHL roster. If I'm forced to make a prediction, I would say if Nashville can improve their 5-on-5 play, if they can get better performances from UC Saros, from Philip Forsberg, if they can keep Roman Josi healthy, and if some of these younger players can take a step, this is a team that could battle for a wild card spot. But they're in a really tough division. The Central Division is a bear. The Western Conference is not easy. So it's an uphill climb. They're going to have to do so many things better. And they're also going to need some help from some teams who maybe don't do things quite as well that they're competing against. Could they make the playoffs? They could. Would I be shocked if they didn't? No. But I mean, we're all hoping just puck luck alone is going to make this a little bit better season to watch.
And Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we talk a little Nashville Predators. And do you feel like the lower expectations or the less buzz around this team has been by design, or do you feel like people that may have been somewhat responsible for that buzz have kind of taken a once bitten, twice shy type approach to this team this time around?
I think everybody has stepped back from those expectations and have reset some things. So I think it's a mixture of both. I think looking at how Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault underperformed last season kind of made everybody think, okay, maybe they're not going to be able to recreate their success at this point in their career with these other teammates. I also think part of it is really good for this team. Those expectations last year were a very heavy weight. And I think it's better for this team this year to go in and feel like we have something to prove. And they all come in with a chip on their shoulder. They were all very disappointed. I would almost say embarrassed about how last season went. And they have something that they want to prove individually and collectively. And here's what's real. The NHL really is not paying any attention to the Nashville Predators right now after last season. And you can't blame them. You know, the difference between expectations and reality was vast. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do coming in with less eyes on them, less pressure on them. Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, more settled just in their home life, more comfortable with their teammates. Is that going to be enough to kind of snap this team out of it and get them a little closer to where on paper they should be? We're going to have to see, but they prefer it this way. The players have been very honest. They prefer it this way.
And we would be remiss not to ask a question about Andrew Brunette coming into this season. I feel like I'm going to tattle on a couple people, but a lot of people had maybe written some words or statements that he was going to be let go at some point last year. The seat was very hot, it feels like, several points through the year. Is it going into this season? If it is, how hot is it?
It seems like it should be very toasty with the way that last season went and the roster that Andrew Brunette had. Some of the decisions that he made as far as line combinations raised some questions as well. But you have to remember that Andrew Brunette is working for a general manager who was a head coach in this league. And I think Barry Trotz is somebody who understands how much pressure falls on a head coach that is really on their decision making and how much just is where the buck stops. Now, he has been very clear that he has worked with Andrew Brunette over the offseason. He's had a lot of conversations. Andrew Brunette has been clear that he has had a lot of conversations with the leadership group of this team. And they've been very, very frank conversations. So I think that there's a better understanding between players and coach. I think there's a better understanding between general manager and coach. And I don't know that Andrew Brunette's seat is as hot as people think it should be. He was hired to come in and coach a team that was going to be younger, and he was going to grow them into a competitor. Those offseason moves last season was a total pivot in the job. Now, this is kind of the season that's going to decide if Nashville continues to try to go for it now or if they're going to turn the page and focus on the future. And I think Barry Trotz really wants Andrew Brunette around for that move. So I do think Brunette has a longer leash than it feels like he should have this season.
That's interesting. Putting on my Wade Neely hat for just a second, according to BetMGM.com, an article they had a couple of weeks ago, Brunette, Patrick Roy, Lindy Ruff of the Sabres, and John Cooper of the Lightning are in your four hottest seats, I guess, and Brunette is the first one mentioned. No odds listed at this point, but I think we're all kind of thinking in the same direction. And you make a heck of a point, I think, in that the guy who would be pulling the trigger, should it come to that, is a former coach. And so Brunette may benefit a little bit from that perspective there.
Yeah, I think so too. And, look, I was somebody who covered all 82 games last season. I understand the frustration and I understand why the conversations were happening about firing Andrew Brunette. But I also struggle with the fact that this is a league that doesn't always do a great job of developing coaches. And I think that that's something Barry Trotz is very committed to. He believes that Andrew Brunette has the talent to be a quality head coach. And so I think Barry Trotz is going to be a little bit more patient. I understand why he's number one at BetMGM. I absolutely understand that. But I think people might be surprised how long Barry Trotz lets Andrew Brunette work this out, especially with the way that the offseason went and the conversations that they had. This really feels like a complete reset for the team. And going into the season, Barry Trotz has been clear that Andrew Brunette is his guy.
While there's some conjecture as to whether or not Andrew Brunette should be on the hot seat or how hot the seat should be, I don't think there's anybody that will argue with the idea of Pete Weber and Terry Crisp going into the Preds Golden Hall as their class of 2025, joining David Poole, Shea Weber, and Pecorine. They will be inducted during the November 1st Preds game against Calgary. And, you know, any recognition those two get, well, one, you got to do it together. And two, again, I don't see anybody saying, nah, you sure you want to do that? So
These are two men who deserve so much credit for where the Nashville Predators are and the fan base that they've developed. These are the two men that went out there and it really was almost a grassroots effort to convince people in the South, in Nashville, that hockey is amazing. And what they did, all of the teaching that they did, all of the promoting that they did, really grew this into one of the best NHL cities that there is. And you're right, there are no two men who deserve more credit for where Nashville is at right now than the two of them. And I just thrilled. I think everybody in Nashville is going to be really excited to celebrate those two.
And Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio joining us here on Main Street Sports today. The Preds have a split squad matchup tonight up at Clarksville's F&M Bank Arena, the Gold Star Showcase. Are you going up to Clarksville, Ann?
I'm not going to be able to get to Clarksville. I've got to record another podcast tonight, so I'm going to miss this in Clarksville. But I will say this, if people can get there, go. These intra-squad scrimmages are a lot of fun. And this is something that these players, this organization, they feel so strongly about. There's really a close tie with the Predators and the military community. This is something that they're very, very passionate about. It's going to be a great event. It has been a great event in the past. And I will tell you that I'm a little bit sad not to be going tonight. It's going to be great.
Gold Star Showcase tonight. They've got open practice tomorrow night at Ford Ice out at Bellevue. Final preseason game at Bridgestone is October 4th, which is next Friday? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, next Friday against Carolina. And then again, the regular season begins on October 9th against the visiting Columbus Blue Jackets. So it's right around the corner. It's getting close.
It'll be here before we know it. I am so ready for a new season. I'm so ready for a new season, friends. Let's turn that page and let's see where we can go from here.
As a Braves fan, I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. Look forward to catching up with you here again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Let's take a break. Let's get to the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll talk a little football as we go out. Stick around.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
Coming down the home stretch here on Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. This is the Grab Bag. Thursday night, NFL football tonight. Big NFC West matchup as the 2-1 Arizona Cardinals, coming off of a 16-15 loss at San Francisco this past weekend, taking on the Seattle Seahawks, also at 2-1. Having defeated New Orleans and Pittsburgh after opening the season with a 17-13 loss to the 49ers. So kind of feels like the 49ers are the team out there, but this is a big matchup here in that division tonight.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, two quarterbacks that we have our eyes on. I'm just looking at several, sports talk shows, NFL Network, things of that nature this season. Those are two quarterbacks that are very under a microscope. Looking for Kyler Murray to take that next step with the Cardinals offense, with Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be without James Conner, who got injured last week. So Trey Benson is going to step in at that running back position. But the weapons, at least, through the aerial attack, are there for Kyler Murray. Can he take that next step? Then obviously with Mike McDonald in Seattle, having Sam Darnold come over from Minnesota, just his development, you could easily make the case that the Seahawks should be 3-0. The game, their season opener at home versus the 49ers, kind of a game that they gave away with a turnover late in the red zone. So should be a good matchup tonight. NFC West is very competitive. You mentioned how good the 49ers are, but the two division games have been really close. Arizona lost last week on a walk-off kick. So it's closer than what we think, or what some may think.
Yeah, if you are a fan of the AFC South, you're really looking at the NFC West, and it just kind of makes you want to throw up or something, because, 2-1 is the worst record in that division, and that's where the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks all are against San Francisco, 3-0 right now. So some good football being played out there, and bodes well for tonight, 7:15 kickoff on Amazon Prime. The Giants, meanwhile, 0-3. Dave, I don't know how much y'all got into it, or if you got into it at all yesterday, but they have decided to ride with the rookie, Jackson Dart, the new QB1 in East Rutherford, ahead of veteran Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I believe Wade and Calvin got to that on Tuesday just because of the timing of that. But to your point, it's time. We knew at some point, with him being the first round pick in the back half, with them trading up out of the second into the latter half of the first, that his time was eventually going to come. We know that Brian Daboll is very much on the hot seat. Ann mentioned a toasty seat. Well, Daboll is toasty. He has to show it now. And you knew he was going to pull the string, especially with their record. Russ, he looked really, really good versus Dallas. Granted, that was a porous Cowboys defense. Didn't look so hot last week on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. Jackson Dart, once the fans in New York start calling for you, it's coming. So we will see what he does. He has some mobility that Russ does not have in his older age. Cam Scatterboo is going to be the lead back. We saw that Tracy went down. So the Giants are a young team. They have some young pieces on that offense with Scatterboo, with Dart, with Malik Neighbors. How can they grow over the next 14 weeks to maybe save Brian Daboll's job?
Right. College football tonight. I guess it's the only FBS game. It's the only one I could find anyway. Army at East Carolina, 6:30 kick on ESPN. Pretty mundane start time on a Thursday night. But if you were listening to our Throwback Thursday segment a couple of segments ago with Illinois alumnus Steve LAYMAN talking about his Illini playing the late game Saturday night at Michigan State, and now I'm sorry, it wasn't. Wait a minute. Let me reframe that. Talking about the late game that USC had to play at Michigan State this past Saturday. Now, USC goes to Illinois Saturday, playing the early game. It's an 11 o'clock kick in Champaign, Illinois, and Lincoln Riley isn't happy. Talking about the logistics of going from playing the latest game last weekend to the earliest game this weekend. And as we mentioned, Wade, Steve, and I, during that segment, I'm not quite sure what he expected coming from the Pacific Coast into the Big Ten, what was going to happen as far as those wide variances in kickoffs and that kind of thing. But yeah, he's not happy with USC playing at 11 Eastern a week ago at his place, and now playing at noon Eastern at Illinois this weekend. Going from going from the absolute latest kick in the country to the absolute earliest kick in the country has its challenges, but the challenges, like, it is what it is. We don't make the schedule, clearly. Yeah.
I mean, you made the point right there. It's not like there used to be a conference that existed that put all the West Coast teams in the same conference together. But, money. That's the end all be all. So money happened, and so USC, Oregon, etc., UCLA, excuse me, all end up in a different conference, and there we go. So you get what you asked for. What do you think is going to happen when they make some point to State College to play Penn State? You might get an 11 a.m. kick, you might not, but hey, that's what happens.
I don't know how you didn't realize that this was going to be the way this was going to shake out when you jumped into it. Oklahoma is going to be without their quarterback and apparently Heisman Trophy candidate John Mateer for about a month after having undergone hand surgery earlier this week. And I think one of the games that he's going to miss is Tennessee. So a lot of people in Knoxville kind of excited about getting Michael Hawkins Jr. under center instead of John Mateer for that ball game when it comes up.
I have no idea right now who is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. All the people that we were told at the beginning of the season, Arch Manning, Carson Beck, those guys have not played well, to say the least. So I have no idea. Could it right now? Give it to Diego Pavia.
It's as good as any.
Or the Mendoza kid from Indiana for sure. After last week, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Virginia Tech, UCLA, Oklahoma State. Who's next to be without a coach?
Arkansas? Pittman?
They
played Notre Dame this week. So,
but it's in Fayetteville, right?
Yes, 11 a.m. kick though.
Okay, interesting. I'm sure Wade
They
and I will
lost
be
to Memphis
talking
last week, Mo. You can't lose to Memphis if you're Arkansas.
Well, I'm not sure they had any business playing that game in Memphis to start with, but yeah, you're right.
That's what I said. Yeah,
that's not a good loss for Arkansas, and this might not be a good one for them either. So something to keep an eye on. Also, how itchy does Clemson get? So we'll see.
It's a good question. Good question.
Yeah. Interesting series coming up at the FCS level. UT Martin and Central Arkansas have announced a 4-game series. UT Martin of the Big South / OVC, Central Arkansas of the United Athletic Conference that also has Austin P among others. So it feels like that's a series that should have already been ongoing, but they're going to be playing over the next 4 years starting next year. Something to keep an eye on there at the FCS level. That's going to do it for Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join me and Wade at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We will see y'all then. Have a great Thursday night.